Okay, I don't often do these comment response videos, and you're going to see why in a second. But I'm going to do one here for my latest video entitled Another Failed Drug Test, ? And this is in relation to Conor Benn. Now, in the video, I reported on a story from Jeff Powell of the Daily Mail, and he is claiming that Conor Benn failed another test earlier in the year. At no point in the video did I say that what he was saying was true. I kept saying over and over again, if this is true, if this, if that, constantly saying if. And I even put allegedly in the title because I don't know whether it's true or not. Okay? So let's just establish that from the get-go. So I'm reporting on a story that may or may not be true. We'll find out in due course. So let's start off with some of the comments. So first guy says, this is rough. Indeed it is. For Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn, it's a rough time. Gary Hillman says, any chance of Hearn getting banned? Because I think he should be. He's found out twice that Conor Benn has failed now, but still putting fights on for him. Remember, cry Big Baby. He never shut up. And day and night when Big Baby was caught cheating, what a hypocrite this guy is. Does it to suit his, pockets? He definitely needs banning, ? Well, again, as I said a few moments ago, we don't know whether Conor Benn actually failed earlier on in the year. It's a story that's being reported by one of the mainstream newspapers. We have to let that play out and see. But if it turns out to be true, is there a case for Eddie Hearn being banned? There's definitely a case. I don't know whether I would back the case necessarily. I'd have to think more about it. But there's definitely a case. And what does the law say about stuff like this? Never mind the legal aspect of it. Is it even lawful? I don't know. So yeah, there's definitely a case that could be made if this stuff turns out to be true. And it's an interesting question and it's an interesting proposition, by the way. So shout out to Gary Hillman. Next person says, Eddie's gone to Oz, the furthest he could get away. Yeah, and I'll come on to the comment I made about that in the video in just a second. This guy says he went to Baza and, well, let's not name him, Jim will fix it, Secret Island. I think he meant to say the other guy, right, whose black book Baza was in. Another one from Niall Payton, he says, at the end of the day, Conor is demanding an apology either from the media or fans or both. I don't know. He's demanding an apology. This makes him a totally innocent man. No guilty man would be demanded an apology. I would tweet him my apology, but he's blocked the comments for some reason. Now, I'm assuming this guy's being sarcastic, right? Because, yeah, you'd have to be unbelievably naive to not be sarcastic. So I'm assuming he's being sarcastic with his comment. So I replied by saying, I'm LOL, I assume you're being sarcastic. However, if someone genuinely believes that, because there are people out there naive enough to just see someone saying, I demand an apology when the truth comes out and instantly exonerate them. Okay, and I explained here that if demanding an apology was all that was required to prove your innocence, then literally every guilty person would be doing it. There's a lot of devious people out there who will go to great lengths to make themselves look innocent when they're actually guilty, and demanding an apology is certainly not beyond them. Okay, Benn needs to prove his innocence with actual evidence. That's what I wrote there. Next person says, this is Louis Liffey. He says, Hearn was putting a lot of stock into Benn after his heavyweights crumbled. Indeed he was. Indeed he was. And this guy says heavyweight, right, with an asterisk. Basically insinuating that AJ was his only heavyweight really of any note. And I guess he's kind of dismissing Dylan White ever being a heavyweight of note. Next comment from Addy, he says, blame Conor and Nigel who knowingly took drugs and let his son take them. Wake up, the bias is getting desperate. This is the most bizarre thing about being the content creator that I am, where I take a objective approach, is you get attacked from all sides. So on the very same video, I can have people calling me a Matchroom fanboy and an Eddie Hearn fanboy. And in the very same comment section, having people saying that I hate Eddie Hearn and I'm an Eddie Hearn hater and I'm a Tyson Fury fanboy, and vice versa. A lot of people out there just do not cannot grasp the concept of objectivity, of objectivism. They just can't grasp it. They can't get their heads around it. And the reason is they're not capable of it themselves. So they project their own bias mindset onto me. This is what they do. So this person says, again, you avoided blaming the Benns and latched onto Eddie Hearn. Typical black man blaming the white man. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. So this racist idiot who has no idea what he's talking about, has no idea about me or my ideology. I mean, surely, idiots like this didn't see the post on my community page regarding BLM, where I was denouncing BLM from the beginning, denouncing victim mentality, etc., etc. So he's taken one instance, and this imbecile of I'm not even going to call him a human being, has extrapolated that out to me just being some, racist and blaming it all. See, I haven't gone in on Conor and Nigel Benn yet because the facts haven't all come out. I'm giving them due process like I give everybody else the first time they've tested positive for anything. But again, here you have a knuckle dragger, an idiot who knows nothing about me or nothing about what I believe, making ridiculous assumptions based on his biases. So obviously he's hitting the block party. Absolute numpty. Next one, and look, and I'm going to show you exactly what I talked about. So we'll go from one extreme to the other. This idiot here who's accusing me of basically being biased in favor of the Benns, right? And then you'll see other idiots accusing me of being biased against them, essentially. So this next person says, sounds very, very familiar to the Tyson and Huey Ball episode. Promoters promote and they will explore any and all legal technicalities, explore any and all legal technicalities and potential loopholes to keep their fighters earning. It's just what they do. And there isn't a scrap of human conscience between them. It's for the governing bodies to ensure the loopholes aren't there to be exploited in the first place. In the BBB of C's case, that means taking on board the results of any and all testing organizations that the fighters are signed up to through the sanctioning bodies that rank them. Okay? Lucas Pickford says, who cares I don't? Well, lots of people do, hence the video's doing good views. And all videos to do with this story right now are doing good views. So you may not care, but lots of people do. And this is a boxing news channel. I'm giving people news that they want to hear, basically. News that's popular, stories that are popular. This person says, Hatman, we were days away from Savannah Marshall, or we are days away from Savannah Marshall. Can you make a video about them? We can't just pretend it's not happening. I have made at least one video about that fight before. So go check that video out. And I did say that that's the only fight of its type that has the potential, if it's promoted properly, to actually be a crossover because of the characters involved and because of the fact that Savannah Marshall is uncharacteristically heavy-handed for a female fighter. So when you combine a very divisive and kind of hated character in Clarissa Shields, who's also quite well known on social media and what have you, with arguably the most heavy-handed female fighter in the world, you can see how that, if it's promoted the right way, could actually do well. Much better than most other female fights. So I did a video about that before. This person here says, great video this, mate. Thank you. Appreciate your support. Next person says, anyone know when Calla found out? And somebody has asked me to, or recommended that I watch Calla's interview. I haven't actually watched any of his interviews since, to be fair. I will be watching those. This guy says, blood cleat, Benn all juiced up to back Axel. Yeah, we'll find out what the case is with Conor Benn. Next one says, who kept it quiet when Fury failed before the Vlad fight? Now that's a very good question. That is a very, very good question. Who kept it quiet before the Vlad fight? Did Frank Warren know? I responded by saying, good question. Did Frank Warren know? Someone should ask him, because Tyson Fury tested positive shortly after the Christian Hammer fight, and the Vladimir Klitschko fight was several months after that. This guy says Eddie Hearn fanboys are embarrassing. Fanboys in general are embarrassing. It's just an embarrassing thing when someone loves an individual who they've never met before, who's never done anything for them personally in a direct fashion. But they put them up on this pedestal and act like they can do no wrong. And they experience tremendous cognitive dissonance when facts emerge that challenge their unrealistic perception of their hero. And I'll come on to cognitive dissonance in a second. Again, there's this racist idiot, and he is racist. What an idiot. You know nothing about me or nothing about my attitudes towards the type of subjects you're speaking on. But you make all these stupid assumptions because you're an imbecile. So this person says, Tom Shaw says, if Eddie knew about this as well, he really is a snake. Okay. Can't argue with that if you knew about it as well. This guy says boxing in general has gone downhill for a long time. It's become a circus and people are sick and tired of all the rubbish. I don't agree with that because boxing over the past, let's say 5 years, has become more popular than any time, at least since the 90s. So boxing's been on a high, but then again, it depends on what you mean by a long time. If you're talking about the past 2 years, you might have a point. But it isn't just boxing that's gone downhill over the past 2 years, right? Lots of things are going downhill for obvious reasons. Joel Scott says, Clomid has a detection time of 4 months, so it's not surprising that Conor has failed more than one test for Clomid. Says more plates, more dates believes Conor has accidentally ingested Clomid, either by a tainted supplement or by taking another PED tainted with Clomid, because it doesn't make sense taking Clomid knowingly. You are getting tested. Okay? But then you've got that doctor, Usman, who said that in the UK, you'd have to be an idiot to get caught. He did this video interview over Skype or whatever it was, where he basically said that he outlined some of the ways that you can circumvent the testing and how you can flush certain substances out of your system. Again, I'm no PED expert at all. I've never been deeply into the subject, but that's just something I can throw out there as a possible counter. I'm not trying to contest what you're saying or what more plates, more dates is saying. I'm sure you guys know a lot more about PEDs than me, but there was that doctor who said that if you get caught in the UK, you're an idiot because it's so easy to circumvent the testing and get stuff out of your system. Now, this individual says, Hatman, you are also taking advantage of current unverified allegations. You seem to enjoy people's adversities, like the tabloids. And of course, he's put a bunch of laughing emojis out of it, which basically just shows he's triggered by, by what I'm saying in my video. That's why he's put all the laughing emojis. So I responded with the following. This is a boxing channel. Do you expect me not to cover this story when it's a boxing channel? That's absolutely bizarre. I cover boxing news. It doesn't matter how uncomfortable the story makes you feel, I'll cover it regardless. And as far as his quote, where he said, to quote him, he said, you seem to enjoy people's adversities like the tabloids. And I responded by saying, Eddie Hearn has a lot to answer for, which of course he does. And I do find humor in some of his evasive antics. It's not like I'm laughing at an innocent victim or some homeless guy on the street. So no, I don't find humor in people's adversities in a general sense whatsoever. Quite the opposite, in fact. I'm not someone that's, as I say, going to see some homeless guy on the street and start making fun of him, or someone in a terrible situation through no fault of their own, through no choice of their own, and start making fun of them. When someone's life gets turned upside down, maybe they get paralyzed in a car accident or something horrible. Oh, I'm going to make fun of them. No, I don't do that. It's not the kind of person I am. But in this instance, we're talking about Eddie Hearn, who's, said some things that are not quite true in the past. I think we can all agree on that. And he's in a situation here where he hasn't been transparent about what's been going on behind the scenes for several weeks. And now we're seeing him ducking and diving and, not answering press questions and all this kind of stuff. So yes, I find humor in that. Eddie Hearn's in no danger of going bankrupt. He was born rich. And unless he makes some extremely bad investments, I have to assume he's going to die rich. So it's all fun and games. Not like I'm laughing about something serious here in terms of laughing at Eddie Hearn. Yeah? Eddie Hearn's got a great life, and his life is not going to be any less great because I laughed at some of his evasive antics regarding this Conor Benn situation. You know what I mean? Anyway, moving on. This person says, and what's more worrying, unless the person liked their own comment, what's more worrying is that there is actually a like on this comment. So this person says, you're using the words cognitive dissonance wrong all 3 times. It didn't make sense at all. So this person says that I used the words cognitive dissonance, or the term cognitive dissonance, in the video incorrectly. So I told the person, you're talking absolute nonsense. You clearly have no idea what cognitive dissonance means and or totally misunderstood the way I used it. Cognitive dissonance is when a person is confronted with facts or evidence which contradict their beliefs or perceptions, but rather than adjust their beliefs in accordance with said facts, they instead go into a state of denial and start performing mental gymnastics in order to avoid facing the truth. Hence, my comment in the video about people denying the fact Eddie Hearn's career has taken a downturn in recent times. We'll now see whether you have any grasp of reality in your response, or if you too are suffering from cognitive dissonance, just like the Eddie Hearn fanboys. I suspect the latter. Unless this person's a troll, maybe he's just a stoner or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of how he can hear the term used exactly in the correct way and say that it's incorrect and didn't make sense. Maybe just not very bright. I don't know. Let me show you. Let me educate this person. Cognitive dissonance, the mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information. Straightforward. The Matchroom fanboys believe that Eddie's career isn't taking a downturn, but look at all the stuff that's happening around him. AJ losing 3 times, twice in a row. Dylan White gets knocked out. Controversy with the Conor Benn situation, possibly failing 2 tests. Canelo obviously losing to Dimitri Bivol. His stock goes down. And there's many other things. Lots of fighters have left Eddie Hearn. Lawrence Okolie coming out and making the comments he made and acting like he wants to leave, and that's an incumbent world champion. So again, I used the term exactly correctly. But this person who, I don't know if is this a bot or is it an actual person? Because it's just breathtaking that someone can hear the term cognitive dissonance used correctly and say it was incorrect. Absolutely bizarre. Moving on. Lucas Pickford again says, girls just want to have fun. This guy says, awful look for British boxing. And Hatman, for sure, Eddie Hearn is going down the toilet right now. His whole business is getting flushed out to sea. People have to be mad to not see it. Indeed, they have to be suffering from cognitive dissonance to not see it. I mean, Frank Warren has just taken over the heavyweight division from Eddie Hearn. And people, oh no, Eddie's still in just as good a position as he was 2 years ago. You have to be stark raving mad to think that Eddie Hearn's in just as good a position now as he was even in 2019. You have to be stark raving mad. He said, he can come back from this, but like you said, does he have the stones to dig deep? Or is he picturing retirement on the beach? Can't lie, I'm a beach guy myself, so if that's his jam, power to him. I feel the same. I feel the same. As I said in one of my recent videos, how many times have you heard Frank Warren complain about the boxing business? Oh, it's a terrible business. It's the worst business in the world. When have you ever heard Frank Warren say that? I'm not saying he hasn't said it, but I can't remember him ever saying it. And he certainly hasn't been saying it as frequently as Eddie Hearn. I've lost count of the amount of times Eddie Hearn said, oh, boxing is the worst business in the world. And Hearn has long said he doesn't know how long he's going to stay in boxing. He can't see himself still in the game when he's in his 60s, 70s, etc. Like, Aram and Warren and all these other guys, even his dad. He can't see himself staying in boxing that long. So when he says stuff like that, it doesn't make you think that It doesn't suggest that he has the kind of tenacity that Warren has to just stick at it no matter what. Do you know what I mean? So we'll see. It's all up in the air. Maybe Eddie Hearn will prove himself to be very tenacious. We have to wait and find out. Okay, this person says, it's gotten to the point where I'd rather just watch women's boxing now. Okay. This person says, that show in Australia was perfect timing, eh? Beam me up, Scotty. It was perfect timing. It was perfect timing. He's literally gone to the end of the earth for a show. And again, we'll come to that in a second. Okay, this guy says, it's time for the UK government to step in. They don't need an open investigation into everything from NTK Global. Or, excuse me, they need an open investigation into everything from MTK Global to doping. Dr. Umar Sajid and UCAD don't even test until they get the dope out of the system. That's dangerous. Okay, that's an interesting comment. And I think there are questions to be asked about UCAD for sure, particularly regarding this Conor Benn situation. Okay, this guy says the Hulk Benn has brought boxing into disrepute. Next person, Rude Boy SW9. Okay, that's a Brixton postcode. He says, could be that he is just busy with Shields versus Marshall fight. Shields versus Moore. Eddie Hearn's not involved in that. Biggest female fight this weekend in regards to commenting. But I do agree that he's lost his grip on the boxing scene. Trying to get too big means you can't control everything. Or better yet, things get out of your control. Okay, I see the point you're making. Yeah, if you spread yourself too thin and you try to, it's like in Scarface, right? Where Robert Loggia, I think that's the actor's name, who played Frank in Scarface, and he explains to Tony Montana that the guys who last long in that business are the ones who fly low, right? Stay under the radar. They keep themselves low key. But the guys who want it all, who get too greedy, they don't last. They spread themselves too thin. And a case could be made that one of the mistakes, one of the reasons that Eddie Hearn has taken a downturn, and his fortunes have taken a downturn in recent times, is maybe because he spreaded himself a little too thin by literally trying to conquer the world. So I think that's a valid comment. All right, next one here. Scotty says that video of Eubank weighing himself on the day of the fight was frightening. 159 pounds makes you wonder what the rehydration clause was. 3 pounds would have been a disaster for the sport if someone was hurt or permanently killed. Indeed. Next person, City Pulse, he says, we all know how it's going to play out. Why the B sample from a separate lab doesn't come back at the same time as the A sample. The reason Hearn and his racket will announce shortly, it will be, oh, how terrible, they have lost the B sample. We all know this. Boxing and the idiots, churls that surround it know exactly what is going on. Okay? This person says, Conor tattoo freak Benn, as do Hearn. I don't think Conor Benn's going to be in any desperate need for a day job if he did receive a lengthy ban. Remember, he was born into money, and I'm sure he's made a decent amount of money in his career already. So I think he'll be fine. Keith Williams says it's not his job. Okay. Frank Zappa says, Frank the paragon of virtue. Well, of course, Frank Warren is being opportunistic here, just as Eddie Hearn is being opportunistic in the past. I think Eddie Hearn was a bit more polite earlier on in his promotional career, but as things have developed, he's become a bit more sneaky. He's become a bit more spiteful, at least towards other promoters. And so maybe he's becoming a bit more like Hearn, a bit more like Frank Warren. But yeah, Frank Warren is certainly no paragon of virtue at all, to put it lightly. Okay, Fidel Montague says, I'm surprised Eddie is not facing the music, so to speak. This whole Conor Benn situation is an absolute mess. How Conor Benn ruined his career by taking banned substances is an indication of the level of his stupidity. There is no way he can come back from this. And his claim to have spoken to Eubank was also a lie. sad day for British boxing. I'm gutted because I was a big fan of Nigel Benn. Was Nigel on this stuff too? Well, with regards to Conor speaking to Chris Eubank, I think there may be some confusion there. I'm not sure, but it's possible there's some confusion because Chris Eubank was asked whether he'd spoken to Conor Benn, but he may have assumed that the person asking him the question meant, has he spoken to Conor Benn since the Mirror broke the story? So he may have been answering, no, I haven't spoken to him since that story broke. But did he speak to him originally when the test happened several weeks ago? Because according to Callum Sauerland, according to Eddie Hearn, they did speak. So I don't know, that needs clearing up, but it's possible there's a misunderstanding there. John Collins says, I feel that gym are always pumped up looking, okay? 7 says, Dr. Habibi said 85% of pro boxers are on PEDs, then deleted Twitter and his website. Goldslap said Eddie got too big for his boots. Okay, Deacon says, if he does bow out of the boxing business and isn't as accessible anymore, then that's a real shame because he's the most entertaining promoter that I can think of. I agree. Eddie Hearn has been great for boxing as a promoter in terms of promoting the sport of boxing because he's so charismatic. He's a good talker. He gets out and about. He makes himself accessible to fans. He'll do, at least prior to this Conor Benn situation, he would do interviews with anyone. I've never seen a promoter make themselves that accessible to the public before. And as I've always said, I'm not saying this, it's out of the goodness of Eddie Hearn's heart. He's a people person, but more than anything, he understands that it's going to help his business in this new social media age where everyone's online and using apps and talking on Twitter and what have you. It's going to help his business if he makes himself accessible because he is a good talker. He is charismatic. So, yeah, I agree. He's been very entertaining. And can you imagine Frank Smith taking over and Eddie Hearn sailing off into the sunset? Matchroom ain't going to be as fun anymore, is it? Not dissing Frank Smith. I'm sure he's a great businessman and whatnot. But in front of camera, he's no Eddie Hearn in terms of entertainment. Okay, this guy says Dylan White versus Rivas was worse because the fight went on and there was glove cheating. Brian Quinn says, wonder why Conor Benn has been singled out for this. Where big, okay, he says where when he meant where big money is involved, then you always going to have cheating and corruption involved. Just makes you wonder why some get busted for it and some never do, because it ain't nothing new. Let's see where it goes on this one. Okay, it's written a bit crazy there. Yeah, I mean, I've always felt that cash cow fighters at the very top of the sport are more likely to get away with this kind of thing because of the amount of people who are eating off them. Not just the promoter and the managers and the trainers, but even the television companies, the testing agencies themselves, the board, the sanctioning bodies. I mean, think about how many people get paid when, let's say, a Canelo Alvarez steps in the ring, or a Tyson Fury or an AJ. Loads of people are getting paid off that. So you could see motive for certain fighters. And I'm not accusing any of those fighters. I'm just using them as an example of how many people get paid off some of these big boxing stars. When that many people are making money off them, you could see motive there to look the other way if a fighter tests positive. Because if that guy gets banned, everybody stops getting paid. The person that replaces them as champion or whatever may not have the same appeal with the public. You see what I'm saying? So that's how I imagine it to be behind the scenes. That the more money you can pull in, the bigger star you are, the greater chance that people are going to look the other way with regards to testing. Or if you do get caught, it'll be a slap on the wrist and it won't be any kind of serious sanction. So that's what I'll say. Next person says Conor Juice Man Benn. And by the way, somebody in my Element group, I don't know who came up with this, but somebody in my Element group called Eddie Hearn, or they referred to him as Peddie Hearn. That did crap me up. Peddie. That's a good, I like that one. It's simple, but it's funny. Peddie Hearn. Yep. We'll take that. This guy says Chavez Jr. versus Jacobs venue move. Need I say more? Okay, I've not looked into that. Henry Velez says the Juice Kid, Conor Benn, that's why he was looking like phantoms. All right. This guy says don't juice kids. This guy says Tyson Fury leading young fighters to PEDs. All right. This person says tested positive before. This only proves Conor is desperate to get pregnant. Okay, see, now this guy's got jokes. He got jokes. All right. We like that. Haters of Opinion says, I give Edward 3 more years for him to pack up his belongings and leave boxing. Losing money with Canelo. Joshua can't win a fight to save his life. Chisora and White have 1 or 2 more fights before retirement. Joe Cordina lost his belt. Ben is a drug cheat. Okay. I mean, you know, I wouldn't necessarily have worded it the way that you did, but yeah, Eddie Hearn is definitely taken some L's in the past couple years for sure. A series of L's in relatively short succession. This person says Eddie always had the support of Sky and their power in the media. Now he's stepped from under that umbrella in regards to boxing. It's maybe not so surprising that stories like this make their way out. And that's the point I really should have made and I forgot to make previously when the guy was talking about why do some fighters get caught and others don't. And I have made this point in some videos over the past couple months. And I made them in relation to Canelo losing to Bivol, for example. Is Eddie Hearn even in the UK now? Because in the US, maybe he never had the kind of, let's say, political connections within the world of boxing that the Arams or the Al Haymans had, because Eddie Hearn's not American, right? But in the UK, is he actually starting to no longer have the kind of political clout that he had? And I'm not talking about actual, parliament. I'm talking about politics within boxing politics. Is he not having the kind of clout within the boxing establishment that he used to have? Because, again, he doesn't have the world heavyweight champion anymore. That was a big deal. So, yes, good comment. It's definitely a possibility as far as I'm concerned. He says here, plan was clearly for this to be hidden from view. British board are nothing compared to the budgets of promoters and broadcasters who can apply legal pressure to allow the event to happen. That's why they only declined to sanction after the story broke. Legally, they are not the ones responsible at that point and declined on it not being in the interests for the sport. And I'm going to make a separate video about that, by the way, because I have actually looked up the British Boxing Board of Control rules regarding this situation and why the British board were well within their rights to withdraw sanctioning of that bout. Okay, haters have opinion says, and he wants an apology, shaking my head. Again, talking about Conor Benn. Not sure what this guy's talking about. Silver Fox 1 says, been waiting on your take on this. H, big up. It's twins, and there was somebody laughing about the pregnancy drug thing. AV London says, order, can we have some parliamentary procedure here? Indeed. Parliamentary procedure is always preferable. Hear, hear. Chris Ward Music says, how pregnant does Conor Benn want to be? I like the pregnancy jokes. Can't find that Akan Barak interview anywhere. It was on the DAZN YouTube channel. I'm not sure if they've taken it down, but that's where it was. This guy says, Devin Haney's fighting in Australia, remember? Yeah. Eddie Hearn doesn't promote Devin Haney. Okay, this person appreciating where I laughed. Oliver Court says, DAZN need AJ to come back and put a string of good wins together. I mean, yeah, that goes without saying. This person says, the show in Australia has been scheduled for ages. For you to even assume he's running is unreal. Here we have another brain donor. This individual saying that I assumed that Eddie Hearn was running. No, I never assumed anything of the sort. I made it clear as I responded here. I said, I made no such assumption. I made it very clear in the video that I wasn't saying he went to Australia because he was running. I said it could look like it was that. But I specifically said in the video, I'm not saying that he's doing that. I'm not saying he's gone to Australia because of this story. It could look like that to some people, and that's why it's funny. He's gone to Australia, right? To the other end of the world. It's almost like he's trying to run away from all the smoke, from all the heat that he's catching off this Conor Benn situation. And I say it's almost like that because I know that he has some kind of show out there or whatever. I'm not saying it actually is that. I'm not saying it actually is that. I'm not saying it actually is that. So here we have someone who is either deliberately trying to misrepresent what I said, or he's got some kind of hearing problem. This guy says Eddie has hit hard times. He's got to buy electric blankets and can only put on one show a month for $7.99. Yeah, DAZN in the UK right now, I mean, what shows are they putting on? I guess they still have international content, right? But UK shows, very thin. Somebody else mentioning it. This guy says, this doesn't look good for Eddie, I agree. But this is about a fighter failing multiple tests, surely, and not just his promoter. Well, yes, of course it is. But we have yet to find out what Conor Benn has to say. We've yet to hear their reason or their excuse. See, it's a good idea when someone has first failed a test to actually let them have their say before you pile on and say he's definitely guilty. He's definitely done this and he's definitely done that. You might strongly suspect after researching the product that he's done that. But let's at least hear what he has to say. Yeah, let's at least do that. I've done it with everyone else who failed a test for the first time. I said, okay, let's hear what he has to say. So same for Conor Benn. Now, this guy says nailing the coffin is going to be when they try to charge £28 for AJ Areola. I mean, God forbid. I really struggle with the idea that AJ could be pay-per-view on DAZN at this point for his next fight, for example, if it's against an opponent at that level. I really struggle with that. This person says this debacle seems to be more about Eddie Hearn and what he has to say or not say than it is about Conor Benn and pro boxing. And I've just answered that previously. What else can we say about Conor Benn? We have to have his side of the story. We have to have confirmation from you, because UCAD are conducting an investigation right now. We have to hear what their findings are. I've spoken about what this substance is in previous videos, but what more can I say on it? You want me to condemn him and recommend bans and all this kind of stuff? We haven't heard the conclusion of the investigation from UCAD. We haven't heard what the British board are going to do, whether they're going to sanction him based upon what. So there's nothing more to say on him unless you want to be presumptuous, unless you want to not give someone due process. Then again, there's nothing more I can say at this juncture regarding him. But I can talk about Hearn because Hearn was willing to go ahead with the show when his fighter had tested positive. So that's what because we know that for a fact, right? His guy tested positive and he was willing to go ahead with the show anyway. Why hire VADA if you're just going to ignore their results? These are things we know. He said that there was only a small amount of this substance in Conor Benn's system. Why is there any amount of it in Conor Benn's system? As somebody else pointed out, this is a substance that can stay in your system for a very long time. So just because there's a small amount of it, when he failed the test, that doesn't mean there wasn't a much larger amount of it several months earlier. Maybe we'll find out, because Conor Benn's being very bullish and Eddie Hearn seems to be bullish. Maybe we'll find out that this substance is actually permitted outside of competition by UCAD. Let's see. But if it's not that, then again, why? And this is what we have to find out. This is why you have due process. This is why I'm not jumping right out the gate saying, oh my God, it's terrible what Conor Benn's doing and blah, blah, blah. I may have my suspicions, but I can't go just based on my suspicions. This is the first time the guy's ever tested positive, to my knowledge, right? I know there's this other claim that he tested positive earlier, but that's yet to be confirmed. This one, we know is confirmed. Everyone's come out and confirmed it. Okay, and based on this one, like I say, we'll find out what his excuse is. We'll find out what his explanation is and what his reason is. We'll see. Yeah, but we know that Eddie Hearn, regardless of all that, tried to go ahead with the fight. And the point that a lot of people have been making is, isn't it reasonable, Eddie, that you would postpone the fight long before the week of the fight in order to clear the situation up before proceeding? Irrespective of what Eubank Jr. wants and everybody else involved who stood to make a lot of money. A lot of people are making the point that Eddie Hearn and Sauerland should have taken it upon themselves to just say, okay, let's postpone the fight, sort this situation out, find out what's what, and then we'll proceed. And some people are going to say, oh, well, they did do that. No, they did that when the story came out. That's when they did it. If that story hadn't come out, would they have proceeded? Would the British board have withdrawn their sanctioning of the bout if the story hadn't come out? This is why we're focusing on Eddie Hearn and the board so much, because we have a lot more facts about what they did as opposed to what Conor Benn did. We know that he had a positive test, but why did he have a positive test? We have to wait for the facts about that to come out. Hopefully they will. In some situations, the facts never really come out. Anyway, this person says, I'm a bit confused about the timeline personally. I thought it was the end of January this year when Ben was not enrolled in VADA and hence being stripped of his WBC ranking. If he failed earlier this year, then surely that means it would have been UCAD. Might have my facts wrong. Also, Hatman, you planning on covering the Shields Marshall fight? Well, again, the whole situation, the allegations about the second test, that remains to be seen. And I've spoken about the Shields Marshall thing before. Southpaw says lightning doesn't usually strike twice in the same place. Just saying. Jack Gallagher says, if Frank Warren survived after Sky and during Box Nation, I'm sure Eddie will. Okay, that's a strange assumption because Eddie Hearn is not Frank Warren. Okay, this person says, it's ironic that Eubank Sr. made Barry Hearn and Ben Jr. finishes Eddie. I guess so. This guy says, should do more videos on promoters. Don King, Bob, Hearn, Warren, Heyman, etc. would be pretty cool, man. And a lot of the fighters they have promoted, ripped off, etc. would be good for the casual audience to learn some history on the shadiness of promoters. Okay, I'll definitely take that suggestion on board. And I have done videos about other promoters in the past. This guy says, yeah, he forgot to sign on with VADA at the start of the year, was it? Whoops, how did that happen? This guy says, Conor Benn is finished, no ifs or buts. He is a cheating rat. Like most boxing fans, I thought Conor was clean and legit. There is no coming back for him after this. This person says, we will see. And Stan Salmon replies by saying, Ben's credibility is shot. He will always be known as a cheat. He has lost any credibility he once had. There is no way back for him now. In every real way, he has done damaged goods. All right, strong words. This person says, if he did pop a second time, he must have taken place for the WBC to reinstate him, or something must have taken place for the WBC to reinstate him. Was there a hearing or something? Who knows? Well, again, let's address this WBC Clean Boxing Program VADA thing. Conor Benn was taken out of the WBC rankings for failing to enroll in the Clean Boxing Program. He wasn't taken out because he failed a test. He was taken out because he didn't enroll in the testing. And the WBC reinstated him because he then enrolled in the testing. Yeah? So this person doesn't understand why he was taken out then reinstated. He was reinstated because he enrolled in the testing. This guy says, the zone can't catch a break. It's been an absolute disaster for both the platform and Matchroom. Canelo is keeping them afloat and relevant on his own pretty much. Yeah, it's getting that way. Tupac Shakur says, I'm just going to wait for some facts on this one. Me too. I haven't come to any conclusions. At no point have you ever heard me say Conor Benn knowingly and deliberately took these PEDs and he's a cheat and he's this and he's that. At no point have I ever said that. And of course, I've been criticized for not saying it. And I've been criticized by other people who claim that I have said it when I haven't. Go and show me the point in any video I've ever done where I said that Conor Benn's definitely deliberately taken PEDs. I haven't come to that conclusion yet because I want the facts to come out. We know far more about what Eddie Hearn did and the British board did than we know about what Conor Benn did and why he did it. That's why I can talk more about Eddie Hearn. Okay, this person says Eddie has been accused of bribing judges, and now he is trying to put a fight on between a juiced fighter and an underweight fighter who cannot rehydrate properly. Next person says, quite frankly, there's been no concrete evidence come out for anything yet, no concrete dates. It even says that in the article, no actual date for the first test that he's had an adverse finding on. The substance in question in the first study I came across after 30 days of use was still found in the participants' urine, ranging from 121 days to 265 days, so it's more than possible to have failed multiple tests for the same substance. If anything comes out of this, it should be the utter shambles of the testing system, the reporting of tests, what on earth is going on. A and B samples should both be tested straight away, then the authorities notified before anything is made public. Swift hearings and sentences handed out if applicable. If we are going to bother with testing, it should be the same rules right across the board. This is why a full and thorough investigation and explanation is needed. I agree. Therefore, why did Eddie Hearn try and go ahead with the fight? Wouldn't you want clarity before going ahead with the fight? But if you manage to keep it suppressed so the public doesn't know, well, who cares about clarity, right? I guess that was Eddie Hearn's mindset. We don't need clarity. As long as the public don't know, we don't need clarity. Whether Conor Benn is guilty or innocent, you want to find out which it is before proceeding, no? Since you're someone that has been up on your high horse in the past, Eddie, talking about how drug cheats should be banned for life, surely someone who's made such comments wouldn't want to proceed with it. I'm just saying, be consistent, Mr. Hearn. Would you really want to go ahead with a fight when the situation hasn't been clarified? Why this guy had this stuff in his system? Anyway, next comment here. Are you going to cover Devin Haney versus Kambosos? Tired of hearing about drug cheats. I will cover Devin Haney versus Kambosos, but let's be real. Their first fight was an absolute stinker. I'm just being honest with you. They're both good fighters, but it was a stinker. And so this is a rematch of a stinker. You know, boxing is entertainment. It's sports. Yes, it's entertainment. People watch sport for entertainment. You're in the minority of people who are excited about that fight. So, yeah, I'll cover it, but, you know, there are lots of people who are far more interested in this situation with Conor Benn than they are in the rematch between Haney and Kambosos. And that is evidenced by the number of views I get on these videos about the Conor Benn situation. Next person says, Eddie will be back on top of suit and this will soon be forgotten. All right, we'll see. If he can do it, he really is Houdini, isn't he? He really is Houdini. Okay, now here we come to another individual who has come out with a comment that is so asinine, it beggars belief. So this person says, come on, Hatman, I didn't think you would be quoting from the Mail newspaper. What happened to critical thinking, LOL? And this was my response. So you're suggesting that 100% of everything the Mail has ever printed is untrue, and in no circumstances is ever worth reporting on. If that's your belief, then it's you who's clearly incapable of critical thinking. And I'm going to give you an example of this, okay? Because we're talking specifically about a story, an unsubstantiated claim regarding a positive drug test. So back in 2016, the very same paper, the Mail, what did they report? Oh, world heavyweight champion boxer Tyson Fury probed over drugs after traces of banned steroid were found in sample. Levels of nandrolone, which help muscle growth, were allegedly, and just to educate you here, because you don't come across that bright from your comment, allegedly means that it hasn't yet been proven. Okay, so this is a word that somebody will use regarding a story so that they don't get sued. Allegedly. So it hadn't been confirmed at this point. It was just an allegation that Tyson Fury had failed a test for nandrolone. And that was reported by the Mail 26th of June, 2016. That's when the Mail came out with this story, this allegation. Were they wrong? No, they were right. So in your infantile logic, you've come to the conclusion that every single time the Mail makes an allegation about somebody testing positive for something, it must automatically be dismissed and never covered, because it's obviously not true, because it comes from the Mail. You've done no critical thinking, have you? This is the most extraordinary thing about these people. Yes, of course, I'm the first person to say that the mainstream media is full of lies and propaganda. But not everything they print about boxing or football is going to be a lie, is it? Evidently. They were right, and they correctly reported on the Tyson Fury situation. He did, it came out publicly, test positive for nandrolone. It was an allegation at the time which they reported on. So why should I not report on an allegation they make in regards to Conor Benn? Use some critical thinking, Falafel Man. I've just shown you an example of when they were right on one of their allegations. I have never said that they are right or wrong about the Conor Benn allegation. I'm just reporting the fact they're coming out with this story. So the irony is just mind-blowing that someone can basically insinuate that I'm not using critical thinking when they themselves are not using critical thinking. It's just incredible. No, I am using critical thinking. I'm using my discernment. I understand that, yes, the Mail has come out of loads of rubbish about lots of different things, particularly politics, geopolitics, social issues, and so on, but not everything, not 100% of what they say is going to be false, is it? Particularly in relation to sport, and specifically boxing. If everything they came out with was false in relation to boxing, then I wouldn't be covering the story. But no, they have got many things about boxing right in the past. Hence, here I am covering another story from them. Get it? Got it? Good. Moving on. This person says, as many of us boxing fans are aware that his own boxing channel was recently not allowed any comments. Well, on one video, because there was another video that was allowing comments, but maybe they've rolled that out to other videos or channel wide, I'm not sure. But he says their boxing shows with those two hosts are mostly worthless anyway, but not allowing comments is gutless. Next person says, damn, not another drug test Conor Benn has failed. It's a stitch up, people. A stitch up? Okay. Interesting one. The governor says Frank Warren is trying to win the purse bid for the B sample. Hatman, if you haven't done so, I'd recommend watching Culler's recent interview with IFL TV. Next person says, Hearn right now probably regrets the day he ever got involved with Benn. Can imagine the conversations in the Hearn household. Next person says, geez, this is seriously going to be damaging to Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, DAZN, and British fighters. This is just getting so mental, and he deserves all the, well, you know what, from the British board. This guy says, now do you guys understand why he took so long to sign with UCAD? I guess you mean VADA, the WBC clean boxing program, because Conor Benn has no choice to be tested by UCAD. They test all British boxers. They don't necessarily test all British boxers in the lead up to all their fights, but they do test all British boxers at a certain level. I believe it's from British title level and up. Declan McKenna says, now apparently we're all going to be sorry when the truth comes out, and there's a straightforward explanation for all this. Yeah, that's referencing what Conor Benn recently said on his Instagram story. Peddie Hearn, yep. Oh, it cracks me up, Peddie Hearn. This person says, yikes, if it's all true, Conor's skills pay for bills, Benn is finished. This person says, horrific stuff. This could be just as damaging to Eddie at this point. Next person says, was it something very mild and easily consumed? Next person says, awkward. And this person says, RIP apples and pears, which deservedly is the top rated comment. You know, sometimes I go back and watch that press conference with David Hay and Eddie Hearn where he said that. David Hay just funny. David Hay's unintentionally funny. I mean, I know sometimes he's trying to be funny, but other times he's just unintentionally funny. And also the bit where he was having to go at Bellew's fans. That was funny. But yeah, the apples and pears is a classic. Oh, God. Apples and pears. Apples and pears and Peddie Hearn killed me. It killed me. So, yeah, that concludes my, however you want to describe this, response, subscriber response, comment response, whatever. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys gained an insight into what it's like being a content creator on YouTube. Most people came with sensible comments, but there was quite a few idiotic ones there. The guy who said, you used cognitive dissonance incorrectly 3 times when I used it correctly all 3 times. He obviously didn't understand the context I was using it. Either that or he's just an idiot. And of course, the other person who said, oh, you used the mail to report this story. Oh, I thought, what happened to critical thinking? Again, what happened to your critical thinking? So all boxing stories reported by the Mail are false, are they? I just showed you they reported on a Tyson Fury allegation before it got confirmed and they were correct. Unbelievable. This is what you be contending with if you become a content creator on YouTube and you venture into the comment section. You know, the guy, the cognitive dissonance guy. I mean, look at this guy. What is he talking about? Have you looked? Just to show you again, in case you missed it, because you don't seem like the sharpest. Cognitive dissonance, the mental conflict that occurs when beliefs or assumptions are contradicted by new information. It's not hard to understand, mate. You believe one thing strongly, information comes along that challenges that belief, disproves the belief, shows the belief to be false. Then you go into denial and start doing mental gymnastics in order to cling on to that belief that's now been disproved. That's cognitive dissonance. Anyway, catch you guys in the next video. I'm out.